go on stage. So she also just got a book. She just 2 weeks ago, as I just heard. The Lettrétage book. Yeah. So yes. And she's also the producer and the curator of the performance of a variety show here as well. Our sister variety show in the Lettrétage called Women Show Me This. What?
Girl Show Me.
Girl Show Me. Oh yes. Sorry, I was trying to be politically correct. Yeah. Okay. Girl Show Me This that body of work. So again, Ioana, Cristina, Casapu. 25 of October, our shows.
Next Saturday. Okay. It's working. Thank you, Barak, for a lovely introduction, and thank you to the venue Lettrétage for having me here again. I just wrote this book, which is about a decade spent in the wonderful city of Berlin. It's in German. I'm not going to read from it tonight because this is a comedy night, not Berlin. So I'm going to read something that I wrote specifically for Poetic Hafla almost 2 years ago, which had its premiere here. And it's about the only writers left alive, or can we still be alive, so authors in Berlin, and mostly maybe about the lives of authors and the dating lives of authors, and to get a bit up close and personal, the different experiences of being an author, including when the person you're dating dumps you on the day of your reading. Like today. But this essay is not about that yet. So, just giving you a heads up, that maybe I'm a bit under the weather today, but thank you for, coming here and listening to the story is called Ghostwriter. A woman exchanges emails with 2 men. The first man, a former lover with whom she stayed in touch for a few years, is a scholar living in Long Island. He used to be an excellent pen pal, but recently his academic career took a leap, and his interest in anything other than that took a hit. The second man, whom she met a few weeks ago only on Museum Island, is a writer. Despite confessing that he doesn't read books, he curiously holds strong opinions about them, which can be read every other week in the pages of a popular German newspaper. Die Zeit. The first man mentions a visit to Berlin, initially enthusiastic, but later rudely stating, "Yeah, maybe I'll see you," but he stresses with utmost academic self-importance, "only after presenting my new findings on Freud before the academic world of scholars." With the second man, it begins promising, but things quickly sour as he starts canceling dates and being increasingly occupied reviewing books he doesn't read, while sending her emails that become very self-focused. Constant mentions of his ex-girlfriends dominate the conversation, as he casually describes running into them around town like an unplanned pregnancy that keeps happening. He refers to his ex-loves like the characters in a history book, never bothering with names. They're just they. And, in a bizarre plot twist, he even calls one of his exes it, turning the diversity saga into a strange grammar lesson. The woman realizes that these 2 men share more than verbose discussions about their public and private island lives. They both engage in non-stop banter with a great sense of selfishness. So, after a few such emails, she grows uneasy and angered, reaching a level of frustration that is typically experienced when one feels completely unseen, like being zipped in a plastic bag at the airport. Most of all, she grows tired, dead tired, a transgenerational tiredness that she attributes solely to the wear and tear of having to still deal with the uninterrupted undercurrent of the emotional self-centeredness of men who still want the holacracy of having their cake and eating it too, while she starves because between the two of them, she can't keep on being intellectual while being thin or pretty, not without sounding petty. Isn't this what you've been told anyway, even if we are also told that we should have it all? Unable to connect with this man, the woman finds herself slowly disappearing during the interactions, like a ghost. So one day, seeing that she's talking to herself and they are talking to themselves, out of boredom, she simply pastes a paragraph from the first man's email to reply to the second man. She figures that the first man's writing would snugly fit in her goodbye email to the other one, since it sounds so academic and abstract and in line with the massive self-involvement and lack of self-awareness of the second guy. Expecting never to hear back, she is surprised when the second man writes back quickly, blossoming with interest. Seeing that this worked, she continues, this time answering the first man with excerpts from the second man. And the emails start to arrive more and more often, and they pop with excitement, thriving, flourishing like corn after a rainy spring. The first man's stoic, philosophic language contrasts with the second man's graphic novel about ghosting his exes, love triangles of sadness, and unsolved romantic issues. But it all becomes like a symbiosis where two animals take advantage of each other and both have something to gain. The woman realizes she has inadvertently created an unparalleled form of artificial intelligence, a curious confection of parsimony and progressiveness, a new ChatGPT that only seems to demonstrate that the less involved she is, the more involved these men are with her, meaning with each other, in a seemingly selfless yet massively narcissistic way of relating. They're not even pretending to listen because they hear exactly what they want to hear. It's like sending a salad into a pizza competition and winning. What works even better is that even though those men both know they are talking to a person with needs and with her own life, they enjoy the uninvolved nature of the copy-paste they receive. In not interfering with herself, the woman notices that this man flourishes. They say that if you want to be admired, you should die or go on a trip. That's what people call a French exit, a fancy name for pulling the ghosting. Everyone wonders what happens to you when you ghost. People call a ghoster the one who pulls the disappearing act, but in fact, we're the ones having to deal with the feeling of becoming invisible, ghostly, and when that happens, we certainly don't feel very admired. So when the second man goes on to detail the ghostly connections he shares with his exes, the woman thinks of her own past. An ex she had once said, "We should never speak again, and even if you contact me, I will never answer." 2 months later, she woke up to a "happy birthday." The "happy birthday" was written exactly like that. There was no punctuation, no exclamation mark, no periods, no intensity. Basically, dead talk. A dead "happy birthday" that sounds dead and tone deaf, like a beige sandwich with dead bread from a dusty shelf in a gas station in Indiana, sent in an envelope licked by the dead fiancé of George Costanza, who died after licking the expired glue off too many envelopes for wedding invitations to a wedding that was never planned more than a funeral in the first place. The dead always come back, the woman remarks. They like to make sure we haven't forgotten them. So, amid this existential email ping-pong, the first man decides to further his inner philosopher. To be dead to someone is better, not worse, than to be forgotten. What do you think? He muses. The second man, not one to be outdone, jumps in with a promise never to forget her, even if they become somewhat dead to each other. The woman contemplates this pledge of eternal yet ominous remembrance. What satisfaction does it bring to know someone won't forget you, even if they clear out their digital clutter, meaning they uninstall a dating app, close an email inbox, or even block you? It's like being told you're a timeless masterpiece, but only exhibited in a state prison. I hope I die living behind an unfinished work of art, like Mozart did with Lacrimosa, she types. But there is a pause. She knows she can't unleash contempt like a fire-breathing dragon. You can't fight fire with fire. Submission is surefire. Ready to fire? Here's another mid-century modern masterpiece. I don't know what to say, she finally types, leaving them both in a state of existential confusion, as if they stumbled upon the lost Beckett play and discovered it was in fact written by Shakespeare's sister. You're so mysterious, the second man says. I can't quite figure you out. Ah, mystery. The meretricious lure of counterfactuals, the first man replies. A phrase she has to run through the Merriam-Webster dictionary to make sure it's just academic and not Middle English, and thus comprehensible to the second man, who can't possibly know Middle English because he doesn't read. But if it were Middle English, so what? Another part of her revolts. Joan Didion said she spoke Middle English when asked at her job interview for Vogue in 1970 which languages she fluently spoke. Which part of us has us think we're too daring if we are sincere? Which part of us has decided to use seduction to survive, and which part has evolved to use seduction to defeat? All the women who used men names to write their books wrote history. But how many men used women's names to write history? How many women used to measure their orgasms against the count of Lady Chatterley's, only to learn that Lady Chatterley was in fact a man called D.H. Lawrence? The second man is enraptured by the meretricious lure of counterfactuals. To appease the first man, he says, I'll buy a book. By D.H. Lawrence, the first man commands. The second man obeys, even though he initially mistakes it for an acronym for DHL, or Delivery Hero. And just like that, Narcissus is subjugated, because apparently deep down, we all crave a little subjugation. What would Freud say about that? You're very 19th century, the second man says. Getting analytical about planning their next date, which must happen in a hotel, because his apartment is likely inhabited by the ghost of some ex-girlfriend. He places her not in the Michelberger Hotel, where she would like to stay, but at the Otterberger. That's a better fit for someone cute and 19th century, like you. Because apparently existential banter pairs better with a change of scenery that somebody else pays for. It's like being cast in a period drama, but instead of corsets and ballrooms, it's Berlin's hipster hotels. She doesn't get a room of her own because this man has decided she has all the perks of a wallflower, which was already established when he repeatedly called her cute, because cute is not something we can pull with grown-ass women, rather with small animals, children, and outfits that pertain to sexualized infantilism or shows like Emily in Paris or the film Priscilla. So, she gets her fitting instructions from the second man, who thinks he's the Frank Lloyd Wright of relational architecture. He's got the blueprint for exactly where she fits, how she fits, and what fits her, because nothing says modern love like being situated in the landscape of architecture, right? Enter the first guy, a 19th century fox who probably thinks he's penning love letters to some forlorn, wife-like 14-year-old maid picking heather in the moors at Downton Abbey in between reciting Thoreau and daydreaming about steam engines. He's scholarly all right and bright, writing in a way that would make Lincoln tip his hat. So the woman, not one to be confined by architectural blueprints, or cornfields, or gas stations in Indiana, decides to be wherever these men have placed her. She could be a sponge, or she could be a stone, but she chooses to be a balloon, rise at wuthering heights above the situation, and let them have their cake and eat it too. She lets the stoic man diffuse all the melodrama of nonsensical affairs of his counterpart, the modern D.H. Lawrence, and she lets the self-involved fuckboy listen to the stoic, who preaches the teachings of Moby Dick, a book in which no woman has ever set foot, because it really only takes a man, or a couple of them, to stroke another man's ego with the only other most seductive thing that is not football or hunting: politics. When the first man confidently claims that Trump was the only American president to never start a war, the second man caves in. He stops the banter about his romantic past, and, as if finally discovering the woman for the creature unlike any other that she is, he writes an aroused email straight from the depths of Bergheim, expressing his secret, burning desire to persuade her to join him in the AfD. Here is the hallmark of mating in captivity. The symbiosis eventually turns parasitic. The animals enmesh with each other, begin to lose their distinctive traits, and merge into a single, starved, slightly confused entity, hungry to eat itself. And this is where nature intervenes, to self-destruct, to delete the anomaly, to ensure this could be just a cautionary tale and not once more the stuff of history books just before elections. The woman makes her French exit by the time the two men long to meet her, by which I mean they long to meet each other and perhaps continue the mental gymnastics on the sofa, because they possibly read in the unabridged journals of Sylvia Plath that every woman adores a fascist. So she assassinates her own character, booting her software like the bot in the movie Her, solving the issue of disappearing in her own terms, which solves the issue of being admired. After all, every hero becomes a ghost.
Ioana, Cristina, Casapu. I can see that we have some people that were never in this house.